Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Bash Harry. This is the Harry Knit, and if you don't know anything about me, I am a knitter and knitwear designer based here in Brunei. It's a small island in Borneo. It's always hot. Right now we're in monsoon typhoon season, so it's actually raining quite a lot lately. Pros and cons. Pros, is not as hot. Cons, very limited time for me to film videos because it's like perpetually raining in the afternoon. I'm filming this very quickly because today is a very busy day. This past month has been a very busy month, which is why this podcast is pretty late, not gonna lie. I finished a lot of the projects that I had, and then I redid some things, and then now I have 2 FOs and 2 whips that I want to talk about, and some books that I also want to chat about, because usually I don't have any yarn acquisitions for the month, so instead I'll probably make a haul for the yarn that I accumulate when I'm traveling, or if my partner or my friends are traveling and they buy me yarn. So instead we get books, which I think is equally as fun. Although I didn't get up to reading as much as I thought I would this month. I've been very, very busy. On a quick life update, I was supposed to film a video. I was so prepared to film it. I had everything, but life happens. I went to a road trip to Kota Kinabalu, just an overnighter with my husband. We took it easy, did some shopping, got some IKEA furniture for not only the studio, but the room as well. I think I'll hopefully have that video up next week if I finish it, so the studio is looking a bit nicer than it usually does. And I did a TEDx talk over last week, and it was mental. I was so tired. I think I stayed there. I think I was the last speaker to stay just to practice, and then I woke up at 4 a.m. to finish my speech and my slides, memorize it, and then get up on that stage later that morning. And I remember the few days before that I was really trying to prepare my speech and everything, and now I'm just so tired and I'm so ready to just decompress. And I'm hoping I get to decompress more this week, but August has always been a very busy month for me. It's also my birthday month. I will be turning 28 next week, which is crazy to imagine me turning 28, and I've been making YouTube videos since I was 18, not necessarily on this channel, but like beauty and fashion and all that. So it's wild to me to imagine, and yet it feels really nice. And I like that we're doing a lot more knits this time around. All of that to say is I do miss making these videos. It has just started raining, so if you hear the rain, I apologize, but we're gonna get through this podcast. I'm really sorry that it's been pretty late on my end, but I've been thinking a lot about podcasts and the ideas of podcasts, whether you still like them or if you don't. I don't know whether I want to stop making podcasts and updates about what I'm making completely, or I will just scale back and figure out what I want to do. So let me know what you think, if you like watching these podcasts or you want to see more videos like vlogs or more talking, sitting down videos. Just let me know. I always love making different types of videos anyway, so it'll be fun. Now, we're going to talk about the FOs, which I have 2 of, and you will probably see them in my last week or like 2 weeks ago video where I tried knitting everything in 1 week, which was a very fun video to make, but I was also so tired editing it. But anyway, let us just start with the first FO. The first FO that I have is right here. She is done. This is the Flurry Top by Friday Knits. You saw it on the video that I mentioned earlier on, and you will know how intense she was. I think I mentioned in the previous podcast that I was going through, I think, 4 to 5 different swatches to get the right gauge for this. And then I thought I did, but then I ended up having to scrap it because the gauge was getting too big. So initially you knit this in a size 4.5. I had to size down to a 3.5. And because I knitted it a size down to a 3.5, and I think the yardage was incorrect at the time that I was knitting it, I did not have enough blue yarn to finish the whole piece, so I had to use the white yarn. This is Rowan cotton cashmere that I got in Melbourne last year on my honeymoon, and it's so beautiful, and it's actually very, very comfortable. I really do like wearing it. The white isn't so bad in my opinion. I think especially if I'm wearing it with my hair down, you can't really tell that it's a stark difference, although I do wish that it was the same color. You can see down here they have really nice daisy chain stitch, I think it's called. I could be wrong, but it follows the same concept as Friday Knits Dress, and I think this is really, really pretty. A little bit confusing, but thankfully she did have a tutorial provided in at least the test knitters page. I haven't seen the official pattern book yet, though she did send it. I just haven't gone through it and looked through it whether or not it's still there, but it is really nice. You see here these little holes. These are supposed to be for the ties, but because I didn't have enough blue yarn, I actually didn't like how it ended up looking, and I think I kind of prefer it looser, so I just, whenever I'm wearing it out, I'll just keep it like this and it'll be completely fine. The lace pattern itself is really nice. It's very easy to memorize, but I feel like it was a bit confusing while knitting it up. So if you are like a beginner, it might be confusing. I would say this pattern, structurally, construction-wise, very easy, very simple. It's a bottom up, and then you just seam these two together. It's a very fine stockinette stitch, but I think you have to calculate yourself where the lace patterns are going. And if you're a different size, it does get kind of confusing sometimes. Like, I think when I was starting to do the decreases, I'm trying to see if there's an example here, I was getting confused, and then I ended up doing decreases or the lace stitch when I really didn't need to, and I ended up having holes at the side. So I don't actually think it was the easiest to do, although it was pretty straightforward. It is beautiful, and I think a lot of the other test knitters did such incredible jobs at this. I just wish that I had enough yarn. The new updated pattern that's already been released, I'll leave it down below, has the included updated yardage, so hopefully you wouldn't have the same issues as I did when I was working this up. I think because my gauge was different, I didn't have enough rows, if I believe correctly. My row gauge was different from the pattern, so it ended up being shorter than it was supposed to be. But then after blocking, I think I tried to stretch it out as much as I can, and then it worked really well. I'm very happy with that. And I think that's all I really want to say about this pattern. Like, I sewed the buttons, I had a little tutorial in the previous video. I think it's very simple. The buttons did give me a bit of a headache when I had to calculate it, especially since I had to do it while working the lace pattern. But overall, it is still a really nice piece, and it's definitely something that I would recommend if you're living in like summer climates like I do. I think it's really cute. Would I recommend this to someone? Yeah, I would recommend Friday Knits' patterns all the time. I think she has really great summer pieces. And this is my second test knit with her. I have no complaints. I think it was just a very short timeline. I think it was only about 4 weeks. So I was just rushing through, taking all the photos and everything. If I look slightly different or the camera angle changed, it's because my battery died and I had to put in my new one. Anyway, that was my flurry top by Friday Knits. If you do want it, it is available now. I think it launched, I think sometime a week ago. So it was really, really fun to see. Really appreciate it. Next up is a self-drafted pattern. I don't know if I'm ever gonna like release it as its own pattern. I might, maybe. Let me know if you want it. This is what I would call my Cahaya scarf. It's kind of like my bandana pattern that you probably see me wear a lot on this channel, especially if my hair is greasy from the gym and I'm too lazy to wash it. This is the scarf version of the bandana. I do love the diamond pattern, but I will say, because it's a different fiber, a different row and stitch count, I think I did like 8 different versions of this pattern before I settled on one that I actually liked, which is this one. This one uses, I think it's Beautiful Knitter's cashmere yarn, which is 100% cashmere. It's so gorgeous. The colors of the camera do not give this scarf justice. It's so saturated and pink, and I wish you could come against the screen and touch it because it's so soft, and I have nowhere to wear it. Not yet, at least. I do want to go to a cold climate again next year, hopefully. I went to Melbourne last year, went to London in May. Hopefully we'll go somewhere else next year, cold. So I would love to wear this out. Initially, my idea for the yarn, this is one of the few times I get inspired by a yarn before an idea of a like construction or a garment or an accessory. I loved the yarn. I thought it was so beautiful when I saw it at Beautiful Knitters, and I thought it looked so incredible. Just the saturation, the softness, and I really wanted it on my head. I was like, there's only one skein available. It feels amazing. I want to put it on my head. But they only had, if I believe correctly, either it was 50 grams or 100 grams, but it was less than 300 meters. And I knew that I wasn't going to make a hat with this. So I was playing around with the idea of a scarf, whether it would be a long scarf or a triangle scarf or something else. I was looking at these ideas because I really wanted something that fits this beautiful yarn. So I decided to go into my old patterns and looking at the Cahaya bandana. I was like, oh, this might be really good as a scarf project. So I did the initial design kind of based on the bandana. And then I realized it was bunching up. It was looking really messy and scrunchy. And I didn't like that feeling. So I worked around it. I was figuring it out. I think I did 3 or 4, 5, or even 8 versions of it before I settled on one that I liked, right? Ended up the 5th one was the best one. So I figured out a pattern and a design for this. However, it is much more triangular than I thought it would be. I wanted it to be longer in width than it is in length. So it's more like long this way, but it's about equal to each other. I think this is like 21 inches and the like from tip to this tip is about 20. So it's not like my favorite, but at the same time, I still think it's absolutely beautiful. I'm trying to figure out different ways that I could play around with this, but I think overall, this is still a beautiful pattern that I would wear, let's say, to a colder climate. Will it be as warm as something that's 100% wool with some mohair? No, but it's still a beautiful accessory nonetheless, and I am so excited to take photos of this sooner than later. I realize I am not doing a good job at taking photos of my products as much as I used to be. I don't know why. I think it's just like, I'll take photos of them eventually, and then I just never do. So I'm trying to make it a point, at least for the next like 3 to 4 months, that I take more photos of my products instead of just whenever I'm wearing it. But this one I'm really happy about. If you want the pattern, let me know. I think we could probably launch it sometime in October and then have it released by November. It's a relatively simple pattern. It's not hard, especially if you have done the Cahaya Bandana. There's some changes here and there with the increases. I will say it is a DK weight yarn, so it's quite thin, but with the cashmere it does feel very warm. I haven't worn this out in my country for obvious reasons. It's like 31 degrees now, but I will guarantee you when I go somewhere cold, I will bring this and I will give you my thoughts on how warm it's kept me. I think that is all my FOs. I need to keep this video very short, so I apologize for that. We're just gonna go swarm through. I think the next one I want to talk about before the project that I'm like really getting into is this whip that I have, and you saw it before. This is the Langit Sweater. What is this? Oh, this is my sleeve. Give me a second. So I had this idea for a long time now of an oversized mohair sweater similar to the Awan Vest that I made a couple of years back, where it was mohair, it was very light, it was transparent almost, so you can see through it, but having like blocks of opaqueness, so to speak. So last week, or like 2 weeks ago, when I finished it, I was looking around and I was noticing how the sleeves were, and I did not like the sleeves. I was like, the body is good, the hem is good, I like aspects of it, but I didn't like the sleeves. So what I did was I just ripped back one of the sleeves and I started again. This is the new sleeve that we're working with. I think it's a lot nicer. That being said, now I think it's too short, and I'm gonna probably going to rip it back up again. Am I disappointed that I've done this sleeve 3 different times now on my way to a 4th? Yes, but at the same time, I think that's just what happens when you're doing a self-drafted pattern. You always kind of need to make mistakes, try it again, make mistakes, try again until you get something that you really like. Initially with this, I did do a short row shaping for this, and I can show you on the other sleeve because this is like, I think the original one. I didn't like how bunched it looked when it was laid flat, or even when I was wearing it. You can see there's bunching right here and here, which shows to me that there's too much fabric. So for the next sleeve that I'm trying out, I'm actually doing this with, I think, no short row shaping, which I think is okay because this is like a mini drop shoulder. It drops right here rather than all the way here, but it's not like a, I forget what you call this. It's not necessarily like ends here where you need to do short row shaping to really shape this area. And I also did some short row shaping on the back, so it feels a lot more comfortable at the back. I think with this, it is definitely something that I hope to have done by next month, I'm hoping. I do need to block it and I do need to finish it up, but I do love the sweater. You can see that it's quite sheer, and I like that about it. I like that it's sheer, and I love the hem. I love a thick hem like this, and I love how it looks on the other sleeve. I just don't like how thick it looks. You know what I mean? At least here, it just weighs the sweater down that doesn't look good to my eye. So I'm trying to find a balance between this level of thickness while still being comfortable and not too tight on the skin, especially since the likelihood is you have to fold it like so to really give that thick edge. I'm hoping to make a second sample and then a third sample with one strand of yarn just to see how it looks like. Whether or not it would be usable, I don't know yet, but that's the fun of making your own patterns. You'll get to figure it out, make mistakes, and if you end up not liking it, you can just put it away or just reuse the yarn for something else. That's the fun for me, at least. This one is using Søstrene green. I think it is Søstrene green kid mohair. So I got it while I was in London back in May, and it's a lot more comfortable than Drops Kid Silk. I'm gonna tell you that right now, 100%. It does not scratch my skin the same way Drops Kid Silk does. I have an idea of like ranking all of the Drops yarn that I've used, and spoiler alert, Drops Kid Silk would definitely be bottom of that ranking because it's not fun to use. So by comparison to Drops Kid Silk, the Søstrene green is, I think, around the same price, if not a bit higher, but still a lot more comfortable. And if you're based in the UK or Europe, it's a lot more accessible for you. I have worked with mohair from my local yarn stores, but it's kind of like those unnamed yarn brands. You kind of get it probably at AliExpress. I'm not gonna like lie about that, but I have used it and it's fine, but it still is pretty scratchy, so I don't tend to use those sweaters as much anymore. Plus I started making them way before I like knew there was like really nice expensive mohair. So honestly, I'm pretty satisfied with how it feels, how it looks, how it feels on my skin. I think is really nice. Highly recommend it. I do have their cotton in the studio. I'm heading there this afternoon to finish up some work, but I might want to make something new with that, probably later than sooner, but I have an idea. I'm hoping to finish it by next week. I only have one pair of hands, unfortunately, so I can't like knit as much as I want to. Well, that is my first whip that I want to show you. The second whip is something that I'm almost done with. I'm so close to finishing, and I've mentioned it in the previous video. This is my Crazy Daisy cardigan by B Creatives here on YouTube. It looks like this. She is not done. I just have like one more petal, two more petals to finish, and then I'm done. It has been really fun to work on this because I get to play around with color. I get to play around with new techniques of short rows with the petals. I get to do a double knitted band, which, you know, is always pretty fun to do. And yeah, I rarely ever do a cardigan anymore. I think the last cardigan I made, actually I did make the Margaret tee that didn't have buttons though, that did have like an I-cord tie. I think it was like the party cardi vest, but that was using either 4mm needles, I think. Whereas this is pretty bulky. It's about 6mm that I'm working on, and I'm using Drops Nepal. This is the shade, I think this is Blush, and then this one is Moss, and then the body is Goldenrod. Let me show you what I did. I did a little bit differently than what the pattern's asking for. One, I did make it shorter. So I made the body a lot more cropped, but that was because I'm short, and anything that's like a regular size person thing would just look very overwhelming on me. So I like cropped things. And then I, instead of doing like the full ribbing and the body to be one color, I decided to do the ribbing here, as well as the sleeves, to be the same color as the petal, just to give more, I think, uniformity to the look. And then we added the button band right here. I did finish knitting the leaves for it. I'm going to use that as the pockets for this pattern, and I think it will look really, really nice. I just need to block them all separately and then seam everything together, which I think will be really exciting. I think that'll be very fun. And then start working on the buttons. I chose some buttons that I think will be really, really fun. Not gonna show you because it's in the studio, not here. I'm trying to leave a lot of my knits in the studio, so I force myself to go there more often instead of just staying at home and doing nothing. But it's so far been really nice. I will say that it's a lot more customizable than your average knitting pattern. So for example, the flower pattern that I'm working on doesn't have like exactly how many stitches to pick up. It will just tell you based on your stitch calculation what you should do. It's the same for the sleeves. So they did give a recommendation, and I did not get up the intended sleeve amount, but that's okay. And then I actually shortened the sleeves. So initially in the pattern, I think you're supposed to do X amount of rows, but I knew looking at it, that would have been way too long for me, especially since this is a drop shoulder. So once I was finished with the decreases that I did a little bit differently, I stopped, worked on the 1x1 ribbing, and now it's a perfect fit. Like, it'll probably slightly elongate during blocking, but for what I did, I think it fits really well. I think initially I was supposed to decrease every X amount of rows, but I didn't end up doing that. And I ended up doing like a decrease every 8 rows. So I was like decreasing 2 stitches every 8 rows until I got the right number of stitches. And then once I stopped, I think I just knitted 7 more rows and then started working on the 1x1 ribbing. And that worked much better than me. I think one of those times where it's better if you eyeball it yourself, and if you have that confidence to do so, you should. Because if I followed the pattern, the sleeves would have been much longer than it was supposed to be. I'll talk about it more with the finished product once it's done, hopefully in the next podcast, maybe in my Instagram that I've been saying that I want to update more on, and yet I never do. But yeah, this is what I'm gonna get up to. I think this afternoon I'm gonna try to finish this, and then I'm gonna bring the sweater to the studio, the DJ booth this evening, so I can work on the sweater while I'm listening to a podcast or watching some YouTube videos. I'm gonna go work on these two and hopefully have them done at least by the end of the week, because I have more things that I want to knit up sooner than later. But that is all of the FOs and the whips. As I said, we don't have any yarn acquisitions, but I do have 2 books that I want to talk about. So let's just talk about it. So because July and August have been very busy months, I did not get to as much reading as I did in June. But what I did do was finish this book. This is Simpang 424 by Gabrielle Chin. It's a memoir and an illustrated book by her. This is volume 1. So I got this book because I went to the launch of her second book. So it's volume 2 of Simpang 424. She is a local author here based in Brunei. Funny enough, we do have the same publisher. That's why I was invited to go to the launch. So we went. And it's really sweet. It's really cute. It's not a long book. It's only about 47 pages, but it has these illustrations of growing up in Brunei with her friends, what whimsy and adventures feel like when you are younger. I think I have no comments. I think I rated this 4 out of 5 stars in Goodreads, although it's not on Goodreads, so Heartwrite, please get updated with that. I really did enjoy this book. I think it was very sweet. I'm probably going to start reading volume 2 soon. It's also important for me to always try and support local creatives. Heartwrite Publishing took a chance on me and published my book back in 2021. They've been asking where my next book is, and I always say, we shall see. I do want to get back into writing. It's been a while since I've written a book instead of speeches and notes and poetry, so I'd like to write another one, but I'm going on a tangent. Heartwrite took a chance on me. I love that they're taking chances on really great Bruneian literature, and I hope to see more of that. Overall, it's really great. Support local authors. Always try to, especially in your hometown or your home county. Always try to support them. The next book that I'm still reading, mind you, it's a heavy book. This is The Poet's Girl by Sarah Fitzgerald. This is a fictionalized novel about Emily Hale and T.S. Eliot. T.S. Eliot, we know him. He's the guy who did Cats, I think. And Emily Hale was his muse. And so this is a fictionalized story of their life and through her perspective, which I found to be very, very interesting. I'm on page 171, and I think there's only about 400 pages. I pick this up whenever I'm joining the silent reading book club that happens every Saturday or Sunday here in Brunei. Sometimes I join it with my friend because it's a really nice way to, 1, get some fresh air, and 2, just read a book and relax, which we both like to do. So this book is basically a novelization, fictionalized version of their life. I'm basically halfway through, and yet I've been in at it for a month. It's not a bad book, don't get me wrong. I actually really like the way that Sarah Fitzgerald writes. I think for me, it takes a while for me to get into romance. Contemporary romance is not something that I really reach for. I've tried reading Emily Henry, and I hear she's very good, and yet I still haven't finished a single book from her. But this one I thought would be very interesting because it's more, it's set in the early 1900s. I think probably around 1923 onwards. So it has a lot of historical fiction in terms of what women are supposed to be like, what is their role in society, and how she, as the character Emily Hale, is almost rejecting that narrative, but she's also in love with this poet and this author who's now in London and all of that kind of stuff. I find it interesting. I feel like I have a lot more thoughts on it once I'm finished with the book, but right now I'm not done, so yeah, we're gonna have to figure that out in the next podcast. I think that's it from me. I'm so sorry that this video is shorter than I intended, but it is 11:39 and I do have to leave to the studio soon. But if you like this video, please do like, comment, and subscribe. My name is Bash Harry. This is the Harry Knit, and I will see you soon. Okay, bye!